What's going on, guys? It's Nick here, back from the video. Every Saturday, we'll be taking a look back at the previous week, talking about all the most important bits of news from camp. I'm recording this around noon Eastern every Friday, so anything that happens after that point, we'll go over in a future video. This was a big week of news, so sit back, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you're new here. We'll start things off with the Arizona Cardinals, where I think the biggest news is mostly surrounding Trey Benson and James Conner. Drew Petzing, their offensive coordinator, he was asked if Trey Benson's going to get more work this season, and he was pretty non-committal about that fact. They've been talking up James Conner as a workhorse every single chance that they get. And truthfully, they've given us no reason to believe that Benson is the clear backup. That's kind of how we're drafting, is that if James Conner got hurt, Trey Benson is a very popular handcuff. He'd be a really good play in fantasy if that happened. But until we get more positive news throughout camp, maybe he looks great in camp, maybe they're like, yup, he's the right backup, I don't know. I'm not too pumped about drafting Trey Benson because I'm really not sure. We know for a fact James Conner is a clear starter. Like, Trey Benson is not coming for Conner's job. As Conner stays healthy this season, he's going to be maybe not a featured running back getting like 90% of the workload, but one of the more featured running backs in the NFL. And even if he got hurt, it kind of feels like right now they'd still lean towards a committee. So I would say continue drafting James Conner, and I'm not really that much into Trey Benson anymore. Next up, we've got the Atlanta Falcons, where the biggest news this past week is obviously Darnell Mooney's shoulder injury. They're still not really sure if he's going to be good to go in week one, just saying it'll be a few weeks. They're going to kind of figure things out as they go. It's not the end of the world because you weren't drafting Mooney. Like, where he goes in the draft, you don't actually have to play him in week one unless you did like super running back heavy, tight end and quarterback early, and then you were relying on Mooney as your two. That'd be a really weird strategy to implement right now, knowing he's, at risk of not playing in week one. So 99.9% of the people who draft him don't need to play him the first couple weeks of the season. So again, not a big deal if he were to miss early in the year. If anything, you got an IR spot, he's going to miss week one. It's almost like an extra pick. So again, not the end of the world. The issue is more so that he's going to miss pretty much all of camp, if not all of camp. And then he'll also have a higher injury risk in season. So it's not the missed games, it's the missed time developing with a new quarterback, right? Wouldn't be as much of an issue if he was, an established player with an established quarterback, but he's not, right? He has a new quarterback to the system. They're kind of trying to develop Michael Penix. And so that's not good. Before this news, before the injury, he was going around that like 40 to 43 range, so somewhere in the grouping of like Godwin, Myers, Diggs, Golden, Egbuka, Shakir, like in that general range is where he's valued at. I moved him out of that range. I also moved him behind Jaden Reed, Josh Downs, Michael Pittman Jr., and Cooper Kupp, and into the range of like the rookies of like, Trey Harris, Jaden Higgins, and then like Keon Coleman and Shaheed as well, like that general grouping. I think that's more so where we should draft him now. So kind of goes from like a mid 8th round pick to more of a mid to late 10th rounder. Doesn't really change my outlook on London. He's still a stud. He's still a phenomenal pick. I don't think his workload like goes way up because of this injury. I think he's still just a great pick in round 2. Makes Pitts maybe a hair more interesting. Like if it was a tie between two players before, maybe now you're leaning Pitts. Maybe gives you a shot on Raymond McLeod in round 18, but for the most part, it's just kind of a downgrade to Mooney, less appealing for him, and not a huge impact to everyone else. Baltimore Ravens, up next. 2 bits of news. First one, small one, Keaton Mitchell fighting for the number 3 job. They've been positive around him, but they've also noted multiple times that like basically saying, when he was going off earlier, they didn't have Derrick Henry. So like Derrick Henry's obviously their one. They've talked up Justice Hill being like, he's a really good running back. He's our number 2. And so they're more so saying that Keaton Mitchell's fighting for like, punt return, kick return. They'll probably use him on kick returns, I'd imagine. But like the kick return job and really fighting for the number 3 job. And so like I was a little bit excited about the potential. Obviously he would only do anything if Derrick Henry got hurt. But if you're trying to handcuff Derrick Henry, being like, okay, Keaton Mitchell's someone who, if there's an injury, could get maybe like 13, 14 carries a game, highly efficient offense, very explosive player. He'd be someone we want to start. Now I'm a little bit more hesitant in that, and you never want to be hesitant at all. Like whenever you're drafting these handcuffs, this is just like a general good take, is that when you're looking at a handcuff, you have to be sure because you are opening up, or I guess losing, but you're using one of your bench spots on someone who's not going to do anything. Like, they're not going to break out. They're not going to become the starter. You need an injury. And the most important weeks in fantasy are the first couple because there's so many good free agents. Like weeks 1 through 4, every week we're like, didn't know this guy was going off. Didn't know this guy was going to have such good of a role. And so you'll need those spots. And so for you to draft a handcuff, knowing it's unlikely that the starter goes down in like the first month of the season, you're not really able to cut them loose for those really good additions. And so it is a very valuable spot to have on your team that you are taking up by taking a handcuff. And so you need to be 100% sure that if the starter went down, they're actually going to gain a lot of value, actually going to be someone you're starting in fantasy. And so now that I'm just not 100% sure with Keaton Mitchell, I really just had no appeal at this point. Like I was taking him a lot in round 18 and Underdog. I've kind of stopped doing that. There's other backs I want to take in that range now, so not a back I'm going after in the final round. I would say the bigger news, though, in Baltimore is now the Isaiah Likely foot injury. He had foot surgery, or is having. They don't think it's going to be like long-term. He's going to be out a few weeks. He's basically questionable for week 1. They don't know if it's going to be week 1, week 2, maybe week 3. Like they're just not 100% sure. You got to see how surgery goes, see how he kind of recovers in the first couple of weeks after surgery. Initial reports seem like they're indicating week 2 is a pretty good expectation for when he should return. I don't want to tank his value too much from the news because, he's kind of like Mike Gesicki before. We'll get to Mike Gesicki, how he's tanked. But, in that mold of not going to do anything for you. But if a starter went down for Gesicki, it was Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. For Isaiah Likely, it's Mark Andrews, right? If Mark Andrews got hurt, Isaiah Likely is like a top 5 tight end. That's why you were rostering him. So that remains true, right? It's not like that's untrue anymore. Like it still is. He works his way back. You probably weren't playing him in week 1 or week 2 anyways, so who cares? Keep him on the bench. Again, IR spot maybe if he misses time. And then he comes back and you still have the upside of if Mark Andrews got hurt, he increased. So he doesn't tank that much, but I moved him behind Bretton Strange. I moved him behind just Hunter Henry because, I don't know, those two I actually do think there's a possibility you could be using. Like they have upside on their own, so moved him behind them. But again, the thesis of the play hasn't really changed, so you can still draft him later on. But again, less appealing. So I drop him maybe like a round or so in the rankings. And I definitely like, Kincaid, Pitts, Strange, Henry more now. And I would say it helps Mark Andrews just because you might get 1 or 2 games to start the season where he increases a lot in value. Like if you don't have Isaiah Likely, Andrews is going to go out there. He's going to play 90% of the snaps. He's going to have a higher target share, and he's going to be someone you're wanting to start early on. And that could be the difference. Like that could be the difference between, winning or losing a matchup early on, and everyone's super important fantasy. So it does increase the value of Mark Andrews, just not that much because he might only miss 1 game. And who knows? Likely might not even miss a single game at all. And Likely doesn't really need the camp too much. It'd be nice if he had it because he's still a younger player. It'd be nice if he developed more, but they know his role. They know he's talented. He knows the playbook. He knows the system. That's not a concern. So it's not a huge deal he missed camp, but again, value does change here. Next up would be the Bills, but there's nothing really to go over. There's a few teams where there's not a whole lot of news, so I don't want to report on something that's completely irrelevant. There's nothing relevant out of Bills camp. James Cook looks good. That's really all I have to report. A little bit of news out of Panthers camp. Dave Canales continues to talk up Rico Dowdle, but to be fair, he basically talks up every single one of the running backs, so it's not, a huge story here. He mentioned again, though, kind of how ecstatic he was to get Rico Dowdle, how he's been everything they've wanted and more thus far. Again, you don't know if that's him just kind of talking up all of the running backs, but he has talked up a lot the receiving ability, the pass blocking ability, and again, that's a concern for us with Chuba. I still do think Chuba is being overdrafted because I don't think he's going to have very much of a receiving role, and you're going to want that on this team. You're going to want that in fantasy. Receiving production is so valuable. So again, I don't love Chuba, but there's nothing. You need to come out and be like, Rico's our third down back. It's more just that he's been talking about a lot, especially in the receiving game. I would also say Jatavian Sanders. He's having a really good offseason. Probably not someone you need to target in a 10 or a 12 team redraft league, especially if you only have 5, maybe 6 bench spots. You maybe don't need to, but I love him as a third tight end on Underdog. If you want a tight end premium, if you're in like a 14 or 16 team league, if you have like 8 bench spots, and you want that backup tight end, especially if you went early. So like if you took like Bowers, Kittle, McBride, and you're traditionally not going to have a backup tight end, but you have like 8 bench spots, or you're in a really deep format, and you kind of just want someone because maybe you look at tight end and you're like, it's absolutely nothing if there's an injury. I think he's a good player to draft in those circumstances. But again, in a traditional format of like 10 or 12, 5, 6 bench spots, you probably don't need to go after him. Bears camp. Colson, Loveland, Luther Burden, they are practicing now. So remember, Loveland missed a ton of time because, I mean, when they drafted him, he was hurt. So they knew the injury was there with the shoulder. And then Burden got hurt in OTA. So neither of them were out there then. Loveland, I believe, like from day one was in training camp. It took a little bit of time for Luther Burden to get into camp, but they're both there practicing now. Again, Loveland taken 10th overall, Burden taken in the second round. Ben Johnson's mentioned a few times how behind Luther Burden was, but it wasn't that much missed time. Like, I'd be more concerned if he missed like 3 weeks of camp. Like, that would be huge. Like, if he like wasn't even practicing until like the second or third week of preseason, right? That's a problem, right? When they miss that much time. He missed like a week of camp, the opening week. He missed time where like there weren't even padded practices. That's, again, not that big of a deal. And honestly, the initial reports are really positive. Like, I've been someone who's kind of been off Luther Burden. I just don't think he's as good of a prospect as where they took him in the draft. I thought he should have gone later, but apparently he looks very good. Apparently he's like gaining separation, looks massive, looks like just a really, really strong wide receiver. And clearly Ben Johnson likes him, or else he wouldn't have come in and immediately drafted him early. So he's got a role on this offense. I don't know. I think we still need more of camp to kind of figure out exactly how valuable he is, exactly how much he impacts DJ Moore and Odunze. But I would say, honestly, the initial reports are just like positive in general if you like the Bears. Like, apparently Loveland's playing great. Apparently Burden's playing great. And we already know Odunze's great. We already know DJ Moore's great. So if Caleb develops at all, and Ben Johnson is as good as we think he is, really it's just wheels up for the offense. There's going to be production to go around. Not everyone goes off every week. Kind of a statement we say a lot for San Fran. It's like you kind of have to start every San Fran player every week that's starting, knowing that like a couple of those guys are going off. Not all of them, but you don't know which one's going off every week, so you have to play all of them. It could be that situation in Chicago this season where you're like, they're all awesome. They all have weekly upside. I want to play all of them. I know I'll get duds randomly, but I know I'll get spiked weeks as well. So positive news. I've moved up Luther Burden a little bit. I still am drafting Colson Loveland. Haven't needed to move him up because where I have him ranked, you still get a ton of him. But yeah, the wheels up, I guess, for the Chicago offense is the general consensus here. It seems like Ben Johnson's really turning things around, and the offense is actually looking pretty good. Bengals camp, excuse me. Done with Bears camp. For the Bengals, we now know who 3 running backs are. So we mentioned before they were not going to keep all 4 running backs. We just didn't know who they were going to cut between Zach Moss and Samaje Perine. If they cut Perine, it was bad news for Chase Brown because Zach Moss was an actual threat on early downs, was an actual threat to like take significant snaps away from Brown. And that's a problem, right? You're not on the field. You're not getting fantasy points. They choose to cut Zach Moss, and that's a very good thing for Chase Brown. You now have Chase Brown, Taj Brooks, and Samaje Perine as running backs. Perine is pretty much a purely passing down back at this point. Taj is, I think, an okay prospect, but wasn't that high end of a prospect, not that much of a threat to Chase Brown. Again, Moss was the biggest threat to Chase Brown's early down workload, and with him gone, it locks in Chase Brown for a really strong share of the team's carries, and they've placed an emphasis on getting him more involved in the receiving game as well this offseason. I have been skeptical at times this offseason, about Chase Brown's workload, but with Moss being the one that's cut, I think that's the best case scenario for him. I've moved Chase Brown now over Josh Jacobs. He's now my running back 10 in half PPR, ranked him 20th overall now. I've also obviously moved Taj Brooks up. Like, when you have 4 and you turn to 3, everyone goes up, obviously. So Taj Brooks, now I have him around 16 on Underdog. I don't want to go crazy. I think he's a good handcuff because we know, again, when you take handcuffs, you want someone that you would be starting. Well, we know Samaje Perine is not going to get carries. He's going to get maybe 1, at most 2, but probably 1 carry per game this season. Maybe gets up to 2, and a couple targets. Like, that is what he's in. He is a passing down back. He is a pass blocking specialist. He's someone who will catch a couple dump offs and maybe take a carry or 2. So Taj Brooks, again, if Chase Brown got hurt, would actually have a strong order down workload and would get some work probably in the receiving game as well. That obviously moves him up. I don't want to move him up crazy high. So round 16 is probably where I want him. If he starts going really early, I wouldn't touch him there because Chase Brown is the starter and Taj is still a relatively unknown. So we don't know actually how good he is. But again, Chase Brown now worth like a late second round pick in my opinion. I am now far less worried about the workload than I was before. Also for the Bengals, alluded to this before, they signed Noah Fant. So that makes Gesicki a lot less appealing as a late round dart throw. Again, he was sort of likely where it was like he was almost like the handcuff. He didn't have a tight end ahead of him, but he had Chase and Higgins, and if one of them got hurt, his workload goes way up. Now, we don't 100% know that that's going to happen. Noah Fant is an athletic tight end. He's not going to know the system as much. I still think Gesicki is like the lead guy there, but there's just too much unknown now to where I tanked him pretty hard. You can probably still get him as like your third tight end underdog, but redraft leagues, you don't need to draft Mike Gesicki anymore. Browns camp. Not a whole lot to report. They're, quote, cautiously optimistic that they will sign Judkins. Like, that's not what you want to hear, right? Like, that they'll even sign him at all. They're cautiously optimistic. So they're thinking there's a chance they don't even sign him. Not encouraging. You would think that that makes their other running backs a lot more appealing, but Ford's been out with an injury like all of camp. I'm not a big Dylan Sampson fan. He comes from that offense that I think is just like a cheat code in college that's just like not real, basically. Fake stats, basically, is what I think from that offense. So I'm not a big Dylan Sampson fan. We also project this to be the lowest scoring team in the league. That's why we were fading Judkins before the news. He was being drafted too early. So now we don't want to be drafting these other backs that are worse than him early. So I don't know. The Browns aren't going to be that good. You don't really want to be investing too much draft capital in the Browns. If you want to go after like Judy and Njoku and Tillman, I think that makes sense. They're going to have to throw the ball a decent amount, a lot of garbage time points in this offense. The running backs, to me, I just don't really want to invest in any of them. In Dallas, biggest news is with the running backs. Miles Sanders seems to look a lot better than Javonte Williams so far in camp. Jaden Blue has flashed speed and agility. He looks good on limited touches. We also know he's the best in the receiving game. He's the most explosive running back. I maintain that Javonte Williams is cooked, and it kind of confirms that when like Miles Sanders looks better than him. We know that Miles Sanders at this point is not a very good running back, so you can't be drafting Javonte Williams at this point. I think Miles Sanders has some upside to, like, if he wins the 1A job, especially early in the season, he's basically free in drafts right now, even on Underdog. He goes so late that it's like, sure, if you want him as your final running back, go for it. I honestly just don't think Javonte or Miles Sanders are good at this point. And so I would much rather take a shot in the unknown Jaden Blue. I don't know if Jaden Blue's that good, but some of the underlying stats in college for Jaden Blue were very appealing. Clearly a threat in the receiving game, clearly explosive. And I just think he fits the offense a little bit better than Javonte or Miles Sanders. So I'm definitely not drafting Javonte. If I feel like taking a random shot on Miles Sanders late, I will, but I want to be going after Jaden Blue, especially because, you know, his ADP has been falling. Like he's used to be going, I don't remember exactly how high he got, but maybe like pick 130 or something like that, dropping all the way down. I took him at like 170 the other day. So he's becoming almost free. And again, I think if like, this has most room to change. So if we see preseason week 1 or 2, Javonte Williams goes out there and he has like 3 really strong carries and like a long screen pass, people are going to get really excited and start drafting him early. So I think he's a player that could really rise a lot. And I just don't see it. If you like Javonte, you like Miles Sanders, go for it. I just don't see it from those two. So I would still definitely rather be drafting Jaden Blue. We'll skip the Broncos, skip the Lions. Nothing really happened. Lions playing the Hall of Fame game, but all their backups are out there. Tesla looked solid, but the path to, you know, a bunch of touches for him is pretty thin. Nothing really to report from either of those teams. RJ Harvey looks good in camp, but again, nothing real to report. In Green Bay, I think it's 2 stories. First, our boy Marshawn Lloyd just can't stay healthy. He's hurt again, so that's fun. This time it's a groin injury. They're not concerned, so they said, you know, it's not going to be long-term, not going to practice this week, but should be back after that. So maybe like a 1-week injury for him. I, at this point, am probably just going to like quintuple down. Like I'm so far in the hole on Marshawn Lloyd at this point. I think I have him in like 40% of Underdog drafts for round 18. He's going to now start going in like the very last pick of those. I'm just going to keep taking him in 18 because I think If he can win the backup job, then it's well worth taking at that point, because the backup running back on Green Bay, if you can actually identify who that's going to be, is going to provide weekly value, and he has a decent amount of upside, but the kid can't stay healthy, so I don't want you guys taking too much of him too early. It's more just me saying, like, I have so much of him right now. If he's going to go in 18, I have to just keep kind of taking him. I think the bigger news is Golden and Kraft look pretty good in camp, and Golden seems like a player who could really be that number one. They're out there straight up just lying to our faces, saying that, like, because someone asked about Jaden Reed, they're like, oh, do you guys feel like you could maybe play him in 2 wide receiver sets this season? And they're like, oh yeah, I could see that happening. Listen, if they wanted to play Jaden Reed in 2 wide receiver sets, they'd have done it last year. Them adding in another outside wide receiver doesn't make it more likely that Jaden Reed's getting snaps on the outside. Jaden Reed is a slot-only wide receiver. That is going to be the case again this season. That's why I don't really think you can draft him, especially because they're talking about how much they want to use, 12 personnel. They want to have Kraft and Musgrave on the field. I think, honestly, they just lie to our faces a lot there in Green Bay. But Golden looks good. That's not even them telling us. Like, we can visually see he looks good in camp. Tucker Kraft as well. It seems like those two are the ones you want in this offense. For the passing attack, obviously you want Jacobs on the ground. But Jacobs, Tucker Kraft, and Golden. Those would be the 3 you want in Green Bay. I wouldn't look too much outside of that besides, again, round 18 on Underdog, and that means in like a redraft league, you don't need to go after Marshawn Lloyd. Again, you do not need to do that. For me, I'm still going to take him in 18. Texans, up next. Big news, obviously, Joe Mixon, right? Suffers not a new injury and not a setback. So they've been very clear it's not a setback, but he had that foot injury in the spring. It's apparently just taken him a lot longer to work back from that than expected. He's on the NFI list right now, expected to miss most or all of training camp. Now, again, Mixon's another player where, like, it's different than a young player, a rookie, right? A rookie misses all of training camp. They're cooked, right? Like, it's going to take them so long to get going this season. You might as well just not draft them at all. Mixon is their best running back. He could go out there in week 1 on 0 practice and be good and lead this team, and you wouldn't even be worried about that at all. Like, if you knew he was starting, you'd start him in fantasy. So it's not the missed time that I'm worried about. It's more just the unknown with the injury. Again, the reports are that he did not suffer a setback, that he's just recovering a little slower than they wanted or expected, I guess, but that he is progressing, and that they don't want to just throw him out there in camp and have him suffer a setback. The market has reacted swiftly. So his ADP dropped an entire round in a week, and it is continuing to drop, and it will continue to drop as he does not go out there in training camp. Chubb has also risen 2 rounds. Woody Marks is up a round and a half. They're closer to a round, but around last week. It's like 13, 14 picks. In my opinion, it's an opportunity to buy Mixon. So I know maybe that's a bold take, but he's still 29 years old. He's by a mile and a half, the best running back on this roster. People are acting like it's a guarantee that he misses the first month of the season. They are still hoping to have him back in week 1, maybe week 2. And yet he's dropping into the 7th round of fantasy drafts. Like, at that point, I don't even care. Like, truly, if you told me he's going to miss 2 weeks, I'd still take him in the 7th round. Nick Chubb is cooked. I don't think, Woody Marks is really a threat to his workload. If they're okay just being like, we'll take it easy, misses a couple weeks, comes back really strong, sure, he's got a better chance of suffering a setback, but you're not taking him in round 2, round 3, round 4. You're taking him in round 7 right now. At that point, he's not even a starter. Like, it's kind of that whole, like, Mooney situation, but, like, Mixon's obviously a way more valuable player than Mooney when healthy. It's like, if you're starting to draft a player in round 7, round 8, my goodness, if that ever happened, it's like, that is not someone you were that's probably your 3rd running back. So he'd be on your bench anyways and wouldn't even impact you if you missed time. So I'm taking him at this ADP. Again, I don't think, like, even D'Amico Ryan's pointed out age with Nick Chubb being like, yeah, he's not exactly the player he used to be. Like, I think Chubb's cooked. People are starting to overdraft Chubb. People are going to start overdrafting Woody Marks. I think Woody Marks can be something in, like, a dart throw in 17 or 18. But the most appealing here is just gaining exposure to a round 7 Joe Mixon, because that's a really good price point for someone as talented as he is. I just think people are probably overreacting to the injury because they just don't know. And it's fair to not know and be scared, but round 7 is a great price point. In Indy, conversation all summer is going to be the battle between Anthony Richardson and Daniel Jones. Like, that is all we're going to be talking about here because it has a huge impact on this team. As of right now, seems like AR is winning. Seems like the accuracy has improved. Again, he's not going to ever be like some hyper accurate quarterback, but it seems like it's improved. Tyler Warren's having a great camp. Like, he looks phenomenal. Doesn't matter who's throwing it to him. Honestly, you're seeing him make all these plays. It's like kind of like showing like, these quarterbacks aren't that accurate. And AR is definitely not that accurate. But with the catches he's making, it's almost like, okay, that AR isn't accurate because he's able to catch things that are so far away from his body. He's an awesome pick. Like, Tyler Warren's going to be great this season. He's not going to be a top 3 tight end, but for where do you take him, you're going to be pleased with the production from Warren. But yeah, it's going to be a battle all August between these quarterbacks. We'll have to just kind of watch how it plays out, see what happens there. I would place money on AR starting more games than Daniel Jones, but I can almost guarantee you that both are going to make starts this season. And Pittman suffered a groin injury. I haven't seen anything. Like, that was a couple days ago I was recording this, and I have not seen any sort of update around that severity. So check that. Go on X, follow me on X, go into Discord, ask questions about that. But I'll adjust the rankings when I find news, but I'm not going to change the rankings if it seems like any day he could just go out there and be totally fine. Doesn't seem long term, but we got to tell us something about this injury. In Jacksonville, Tootin had a minor hamstring, which was very unfortunate because, again, rookies missing time is very bad, but already back at practice. Seems like he's going to be good to go. They'll work him back slowly, but he barely missed any time. It was a very, very minor injury. I think they're just being super cautious there. If he suffers a setback, that's bad because it's a recurring setback for a hammy, and you don't want that. But for right now, he's totally fine. They're continuing to rotate Etienne and Tank Bigsby as the lead backs. We will see if at any point in the summer Tootin is able to earn more reps than those guys, able to get some first down reps or first team reps and look good on those opportunities. People are starting to really buy into Tank Bigsby, and I just want to throw a little bit of caution out there. Sure, it looks like he's probably the most likely player to lead this team in carries, but he has 8 total receptions through 33 career games. So on pace for 4 receptions a season, and that's on a 50% catch rate. Like, he is just not a running back that's going to get any sort of targets. Like, if he goes off, it's because he had 25 carries for over 100 yards and multiple touchdowns. Like, he is not going to catch any passes. So I get being excited. It's a great offense. It's a great offense for the run game. And he is a good early down running back. But unless we get a clear 2-back system, like unless someone is traded away, someone suffers a season-ending injury, and we have 2 running backs here, they're probably going to open the season rotating. Realistically, it probably won't be a rotation of 3. It still could be, but my guess right now, if they started week 1 right now, you would have Tank Bigsby as the early down lead. You'd have Etienne mixing as a change of pace back plus third down, and you probably wouldn't have Tootin getting any carries. Maybe he mixed in for a couple. But the threat would be that's early in the year. As the season goes along, I find it hard to believe that Tootin wouldn't earn opportunities. So he'd eventually be activated. They go to a 3-back system. And then you wouldn't really know right now, is it going to be Etienne or Tank Bigsby that just completely loses all of their value? But the point would be, you'd have to start at a really high point for Tank Bigsby to even be like viable as a starter because he's not going to have any targets. And that's just a really big problem. So I think right now at his ADP, he's still the 3rd drafted among these backs. I think it's totally fine. His ADP is definitely going to rise. It's going up pretty fast, and it's going to get to the point where it's like there's really no value anymore because he's not going to have receptions. I still think Etienne goes way too early. I wouldn't draft him at all. And genuinely, I think Tootin is still my favorite because he's going to keep going down by ADP. He's already closer to pick like 140 at this point as he starts to drop. He is the one that has the most theoretical upside, right? He can be involved in the receiving game. He can be very explosive on the ground. He can be their best running back, their number 1 running back in a way that Tank Bigsby can't. There is no world where Tank Bigsby has any sort of reception upside, but there is with Tootin. So I still prefer Tootin, and if they're going to flip an ADP, I think that's just an opportunity to buy more Tootin. Kansas City, there's really not that much. Tyquan Thornton's having a good camp, but we're not drafting Tyquan Thornton. We need to keep an eye on the running back room, but I still think the Kansas City running backs are a situation to avoid. Pacheco's overpriced. Hunt probably going to still have like a short yardage 3rd down role. Elijah Mitchell is going to push for touches. Brashard Smith is going to be involved in the receiving game. They're not going to have 4 running backs active. So once we kind of figure out the rotation, we'll have some value gained here. But I don't see a world where they don't use like a 3-back system, and you don't want a 3-back system on like the most pass heavy team in the NFL. It's not a running back room that I want to invest in at all. Not too much from Raiders camp either. Definitely getting positive reports from all of Trey Tucker, Jack Besh. It's Beck or Besh. I can't remember which one it is right now, but They're rookie. And then Dante Thornton, I think they're just being nice. I don't think all of them are like crushing camp. It does seem like, I think it's Beck. I'm going to say Beck for this one. I think Beck like looks good. The problem is Bowers is awesome. Myers is the one. He's not the X, but he's like their top receiver. And Genty is getting a million touches. And it's the Raiders, right? They didn't come in and bring in Patrick Mahomes. They brought in Geno Smith. It's an upgrade, but it's still Geno Smith. Those are the three most valuable. So for us to be targeting the fourth most valuable player on the Raiders, it's like pump the brakes a little bit for any of them. I don't think you should really be drafting Thornton. I just don't see it. Definitely don't draft Trey Tucker. I think they're just being nice with him. He's more of a gadget player. I think Jack, like, again, has the most upside. He's probably the most talented of those three. But what is the upside? So I think all of them deserve to be super late round picks. But it's probably a situation where it's like, why are we even bothering with any of these guys? I'm still buying Jack at a suppressed ADP because I do think he has the more upside among those guys. Like, I'll take him at like 170, 175, but it's the Raiders. We probably shouldn't be investing too much in their like fourth best player. Next up, we have the Chargers. The big news is the lack of news surrounding Najee's eye. We still don't know. Still no timetable for return there. As I've said, every day he misses makes you like Hampton more and more. I've moved Hampton up to my running back 12. I don't know how much higher I can get this. Pick 30 in half PPR. I mean, for him to be a second round pick, you're going to have to move him over Jacobs and you're going to have to move him over Chase Brown. Right now, I don't want to do that. But I wouldn't like laugh at you if you did. Like if you really wanted to move him up to like the running back 10, get him into that like late second round at that 2-3 turn, and you wanted to take him over Jacobs, want to take him over Chase Brown, or maybe you were in, I think what's more realistic is you're in half PPR and you want that running back because maybe you started off with like, maybe you started off with Jamar Chase at like 1 or 2, and people are going really heavy at running back, and Jacobs and Brown are gone, and you're sitting there like, oh man, I'm at 2-3 turn. I don't really want to start off 3 wide receivers in half PPR. I don't really want to take a tight end here, or maybe they're gone. And you're like, can I take Hampton this early? I think the answer is yes. Like I think Hampton is going to be a great running back. It's a good offensive line. It's a great offense. I really think the Chargers are going to be awesome this season. Again, people kind of like throw caution out there saying like they're not going to get all the targets. That's totally fine. With the amount of carries, the amount of touchdowns that are set up for Hampton, he doesn't need that many targets, and there's still going to be enough target volume there to where he can be productive. So again, I think Hampton is kind of worth that 2-3 turn. I'll see if I can find a way to move him up, but I don't think right now I'd move him over Chase Brown or Josh Jacobs. Also need to mention Keandre Lambert-Smith for the second week in a row. We talked about him last week being like he crushed OTAs. He's crushing training camp. Then he goes out there in the Hall of Fame game and he crushes it. Unlimited snaps. I think he played like half the game. He looks really good. It's a crowded wide receiver room, but I really think he's talented. I think he's earned a role this season. I think if he keeps playing like this, then I don't know that like we'll trust him a lot in fantasy, and I don't think it affects Ladd's role. I think Ladd is just locked in as awesome this season. But if you like Quentin, you like Trey Harris, you need to keep an eye on Keandre Lambert-Smith, because if he continues to progress, it tanks their value. If they like, the appeal with those guys is that they were always going to be out there in 2 wide receiver sets, or at least most of the time, maybe later in the season, always for Trey Harris. If that is at all in question, that like even in 3 wide receiver sets, these two like might not be on the field, that tanks their value completely. So watch this. I think the hype is warranted. I think he looks great. He honestly looks better than Trey Harris right now. Definitely be drafting him late on Underdog, but situation to watch. We just don't know what's going to happen yet. In Miami, pretty much radio silence. We have heard that Waddle looks great. We've heard that Achane looks great. Other than that, we have not really heard anything in Miami. Vikings up next. Jefferson pulls his hamstring late last week. They said he'd hold him out for a week, which was close to a week ago at this point. They said he avoided anything serious. I would assume within the next 1 to 2 weeks he comes back. Jefferson's another player where it's like you're not worried about camp. If he missed all of camp because they were like, we're bubble wrapping him, he's fine, he's good to go, the hamstring is fine, he's going to go out there in week 1, play 100% of snaps, I wouldn't draft him any differently because he doesn't need any work in camp. It would be concerning. You'd be like, well, wait a minute. Are you lying to us and saying that like, oh, he's fine, he's just not going to be practicing? I'd be worried. So you'd like to see him get back to practice, but everything they're saying seems to indicate that it's not a concern, that they know they have a month at this point. They have like a little bit over a month to week 1. They know, let it heal completely, let him be totally fine, then put him out there. There's no reason whatsoever to rush him back. Assuming that's the case, and then he comes back, I'm not drafting anything differently. He's still my 4th overall player in half PPR, 3rd or 4th in PPR. I think it just comes down to strategy. If you prefer your teams when you go running back, do that. Take a running back. If you prefer your teams, you go wide receiver. Again, I'm not hesitating to take him because of the injury. It would only be like a strategy difference if you want to take him 3rd, 4th, 5th overall in like half and full PPR. But for right now, I currently is Jefferson at 3 in full PPR. Nothing new out of New England. So we'll move on to the Saints. I mean, in New England, it's just like they've kind of hyped up a lot of players. So again, nothing really. Like Hunter Henry looks good. Demir Douglas looks good. Kyle Williams looks good. Diggs looks like he's healthy. Henderson looks explosive. It's like everyone looks good. So there's no real news. And again, when people say everyone looks good, it means that like they're sort of lying to you. They're just being like, yeah, everyone looks pretty good. It's not anything to like buy into really. But I think the offense will be better this season. Saints. Juwan went down. It seemed like initially it was a big injury. Then he comes right back to practice. Not that day, but like he's totally fine. So if you like Juwan late, I like him late as like a 3rd tight end, round 18 underdog, super flex leagues, deep leagues, things like that. Remains a strong pick late in drafts. He's fine. Bigger stories, I think, are wide receivers and running backs for the Saints. For running back, it's more like we got to figure out who the backup running back is here. The realistic outcome is probably just don't draft any of them. But right now, it's Devin Neal. It seems like he'll win the job, but they've been very open, being like, yeah, it's an open competition. Whoever balls out is going to be our backup running back. So we'll see. We still don't know yet. Wide receiver is interesting because reports out of camp are that it's kind of close between Olave and Shaheed. Not that it is a competition. They're obviously the top 2 wide receivers, but the reports are that like Shaheed looks really good and that the gap between Olave and Shaheed in like usage isn't that strong. Whereas like if you look at ADP, it would indicate that Olave is clearly the 1 and Shaheed's clearly the 2. And if that's not going to be the case, then Olave probably needs to be dropped by ADP and Shaheed needs to go higher in ADP. So we'll see what happens. Watch that news. I think it's more just like that Shaheed has developed a lot in camp. He's developed a lot in the offseason. And he is a good wide receiver. He's always been a good wide receiver when he's like healthy. It's been staying healthy for him. So we'll see. But yeah, I think it's positive news for Shaheed. I don't think it's bad for Olave, but it's not amazing. Also, though, the reports are that the quarterbacks are horrible. Like they're just not really doing that well. And that's to be expected. They don't have very much talent at quarterback. So don't overdraft Saints players. Again, I kind of mentioned like Juwan good in round 18. That's pretty late, right? Shaheed, upside. But I like him more an underdog because he's going to have a lot of weeks that are very bad and a lot of weeks that are kind of more spiked. Olave, most appealing, but if he's actually not overperforming Shaheed by that much, and it's a terrible offense, maybe we're drafting him too early. So again, I think we need to watch the Saints and kind of see how this team is looking. But I don't know. I guess it's probably most positive for Shaheed. Giants camp. Scatterboo making a lot of plays in the receiving game. We talked about, it may have been the first video of the offseason, how I'm concerned about Tyron Tracy Jr. because Scatterboo might be the best receiving back in this class, which is scary at 220 pounds. Like this dude is a bowling ball. And so for him to also be the best receiving back in the class, it's like a scary combination because what if he gets goal line? What if he gets short yardage? What if he gets receiving work? Well, that obviously is going to impact the value of Tyron Tracy Jr. because you can only do so much as like an early down only running back on the Giants who isn't getting goal line. Like that would be a very big concern. I'm still not sure what to do with the situation, honestly. I still think that Tyron Tracy Jr. is the better pure runner, that he has much more upside on the ground, that Scatterboo just isn't athletic enough to be a consistent producer on early downs. But if Scatterboo is clearly going to be a weapon in the receiving game, and it's not like the Giants can be that great of an offense, it's concerning. So we'll keep tracking this one. My plan right now is to get kind of just like even exposure to both on Underdog, be around the field, draft like 8% of each of them, kind of let ADP dictate things. If people want to reach on Scatterboo, I'll take Tracy. If people want to reach on Tracy, I'll take Scatterboo, just kind of like allow that to happen, basically get both of them behind ADP. But I also think it depends on your platform, right? ADPs are very close on most platforms. So again, if that's the case, I would probably just take whoever goes later. Like if one of them ends up being around later, go with them because I think their value's close. If I had to choose one, I think my lean is still Tracy. But if you look on like Yahoo randomly, Cam Scadaboo goes 30 picks later for some reason. So obviously you take Scadaboo there. So we'll see. Track ADPs on the site that you are on. See who goes first. But at the end of the day, I think Tracy has more value, but I kind of just don't know yet. In Jets camp, running back situation, probably the most interesting. Truly does seem like they view Hall and Allen as a 1A, 1B situation. I don't like it. I just don't get why they would want that. And we'll see if it holds throughout camp. But reports are suggesting they just like how big Allen is. They want to give him a lot of rush attempts, especially at the goal line. It's definitely not what you want to hear if you like Breece Hall this season. And I don't know. I sort of still just don't buy into this hype. I just like he wasn't good. Like I get that he was a young rookie last season and he was a rookie. So it's like, I get it. But among 47 qualified running backs with at least 90 rush attempts last season, Braylon Allen was 46. So second to last in explosive run rate, 40th in missed tackles forced per attempt. He was not breaking off long plays. He was not making people miss. He just runs straight for a couple yards every play. And I just don't see why you would want that. I get that that's going to be the Jets offense this season. They're going to play slow, run the ball a ton, hope they can sustain long drives at like 3 and 4 yards a pop. Super boring, super awful for fantasy. And I get that that's the offense and that Braylon Allen fits that. But Breece Hall's so much better than that. Like, wouldn't you rather have 12 yards than 3? Like, wouldn't you rather have the upside to break a long play than no chance at a long play? Like, I just don't get it. But I don't know. Braylon Allen still goes pretty late, or if you feel like taking him, it's fine. And I do think I'll capitalize on ADP drop. Like, I really think if these reports continue, that Breece Hall, he's already going at like the 3-4 turn. I think 4th round Breece Hall, even given these reports, is something you draft. Like as their 4th player, maybe you've gone, wide receiver, running back, and you want to take him as your running back 2 on a team that started off with 2 wide receivers. I just can't pass up on that value. So I'm going to take Breece Hall in round 4 every time, unless we get reports that it's like, it really is like a 50-50 split. I'm just not going to buy into that much. I just think Breece Hall is so much more talented than Braylon Allen that I would rather take him in round 4. Nothing really to report from Eagles camp. So Steelers are up next. First bit of news is the running backs. Caleb Johnson seems to be really bad in pass protection. And honestly, that was a report coming out of college, was that like, he's not good in pass protection. He's not good as a receiving back. So he's going to be an early down only back. And it kind of seems to be confirmed in camp. Not uncommon for rookies. Like rookies typically struggle in pass protection, but that hurts a lot, obviously. Like if Warren is taking all the passing down work, and Warren is 100% good enough to also earn early down carries, then that's a concern. And we should also remember, Caleb Johnson was not a 1st round pick. He's not a 2nd round pick. He's a 3rd round rookie. And Najee Harris last season on 299 touches was only the running back 26 in points per game. And that was in a season where Jaylen Warren was hurt like all year. Like Jaylen Warren was injured all of last season. Najee had a ton of touches, was a former 1st round pick, and was the running back 26 in points per game. So odds are Caleb Johnson's just being way overdrafted right now. He's probably going to see fewer than 299 touches, probably going to finish outside the top 30 realistically in points per game. Warren is probably being very undervalued. It's something that like I've always had him ranked ahead of ADP, but at this point I've moved him like a round ahead of ADP at this point. Like you should be drafting a ton of Jaylen Warren, clear receiving role. He's a good running back. Like we're always thinking about what's the chance, like what if Caleb Johnson, goes out there. This is what we've been thinking at ADP for Caleb Johnson. What if he goes out there and is just clearly the early down back, is getting goal line touches, is an awesome running back, and just kind of like pushes him away, Jaylen Warren, and it's just like he's the guy. Because we know that this Arthur Smith offense wants to run a ton behind like a million tight ends. So that's been the appeal. But what if that just like happens with Warren, except he also catches passes? So, and he's going later by ADP. He goes closer to pick 100. So I've moved Warren up. You should be drafting him a ton. I might make him a must draft player. I might add him to that list this season. We also have reports that Arthur Smith is like, who needs running backs when you could just play 4 tight ends? So apparently he's been playing around with 4 tight end sets using Jonnu at running back. I mean, he has no shame. Like he truly doesn't. It'll be interesting to see because like he loves Jonnu. Like, he loved Jonnu when he was in Atlanta. He'll give Jonnu carries. Like, that is not a crazy thing to think he'll give him carries. He wants to scheme him targets, for screen passes, deep downfield. Like, Jonnu's a pretty good late round sleeper this season. I don't think you should be concerned about like Warren and Caleb because of the couple snaps Jonnu's going to get. But like, I can guarantee you there's going to be a week this season where Jonnu Smith goes out there and gets a goal line carry and like scores a goal line touchdown. Like, I can promise you that's going to happen this season, and people are going to be tilting off their minds when it does. Up next, we have the 49ers. Biggest situation is Juwan Jennings. I'm pretty sure it's a real injury, but I don't 100% know. Like, obviously he wants a new contract. He said he'd go out there disappointed. It's like, it'd honestly be unfortunate if he was like, fine, I won't hold out, but I'm not happy about it. And then he actually did suffer a setback on the calf injury, because calves are tough. Calves are really tricky. It takes you a long time to recover. You need it for explosiveness. There's a high setback rate. Like, it's tough. Calf injuries are really difficult to come back from. So it would be kind of annoying if that did actually occur. And they've said it's the same calf, same injury from OTAs. That'll hurt his value. I think there's a small chance that he's like, I suffered a setback, pay me before I go out there. Or like, he felt the slightest of setbacks and he's like, no, absolutely not. I'm not going out here tearing my Achilles for you guys. Pay me my money and then I'll go out there. So I think that's still a possibility. So I don't want to tank him in the rankings. We will see what ends up happening. They do need him. Like, they cannot lose him. They cannot have him traded away, have him not playing, have him holding out. They can't have that happen, because Pearsall's awesome, but you can't have Pearsall and then no one else wide receiver. You kind of need two in this system that you trust. So honestly, just pay attention to this. I don't 100%, again, know what to do. I've moved him down a little bit, but I don't want to tank him too much because, he had great underlying stats last season. I know it was the one big game, but like, if you remove that game, he still had pretty solid underlying stats. So I think Juwan is still a good player, but it is definitely like, if he actually suffered a setback, like it is Pearsall time. Like, and if Juwan's not out there in week 1, which I don't know is at risk right now, but if that actually happened, McCaffrey, Kittle, and Pearsall are going to be unbelievable plays. Like, McCaffrey will probably be ranked as the running back 1 in the week. Kittle will be probably ranked as the tight end 1, and Pearsall will be like a mid-range wide receiver 2. Like, that would probably be the rankings if you didn't have Juwan in week 1. So know that when you're drafting. But again, I don't know. I truly have no idea the extent of this injury. Nothing really to report in Seattle, so we'll go on to Tampa Bay. Godwin is progressing but not practicing. Every day we get another glowing report about Emeka Egbuka. I expect the ADPs to continue shrinking. I wouldn't be shocked if Egbuka starts going ahead of Godwin. I have not been drafting Godwin all off season, but we're at the point now where his ADP has dropped enough to where I'm starting to get him. I'm starting to get a lot more Godwin, so people are getting scared. Again, I think it's clear that Egbuka is going to step right in and be really valuable. I still think he's a must-draft player right now at his ADP, but he's becoming more expensive on Underdog. Redraft platforms is a joke. You have to draft Egbuka at his ADP. But Underdog, he's getting more expensive, and they're still going to start 3. So as he gets more expensive and as Godwin goes down, it's like if we loaded up on Egbuka at pick 100 and he starts going at pick 70, and we haven't been drafting Godwin at pick 60, and he starts going at pick 85, it's like just have exposure to Egbuka at 100, exposure to Godwin at 85, and have no exposure to the earlier ADPs for both. Like, that would be the optimal way of playing this, but also we will see, right? Every week that Godwin is not back is obviously more of a concern. Nothing really interesting out of Titans camp, so we'll finish things off with the Commanders. Debo has been having a great camp. People saw like one video where he was a little bit slow and all of a sudden didn't want to draft him. That was the most ridiculous thing in the world. He seems to have a good connection with Jaden Daniels. To be fair, McLaurin's not out there. So obviously they're going to hyper-focus on Debo Samuel, their clear second best receiver, with McLaurin holding out. Like, of course that's going to happen. I would assume that that's more the reason he's getting a lot of usage, but that's also still very valuable, right? He's still new to the team. It's a new connection. So these reps are really important, and it's going to increase his value this season, not having to compete with anyone because he's getting so much more usage in camp. But yeah, I think people are really underrating the role that Debo is going to have this season. He's going to be heavily involved. Commanders run a ton of screenplays, and that's just like what Debo Samuel is good at. So he's a value in fantasy, and he might have more value than expected because Terry's now requested a trade. So he requested that yesterday. Again, I don't have any more news than that. So I do think on Friday that I'm recording this, something will probably come out. So I'll pin, if something big happens, he gets traded, they do a deal, I'll pin a comment. Personally, Again, I don't know yet, but I'd be shocked if they traded him. Like, it's the Commanders, so who knows? But trading him makes absolutely no sense. They made it to the NFC Championship game last season, and they improved this offseason. So it's not like they're Super Bowl favorites, but they're one of the favorites, right? They have a shot of winning the Super Bowl this season, and that completely goes away if you trade away Terry McLaurin. So again, personally, I think there's a very low chance they actually trade him. I've been gaining exposure. He was always going in like I don't want to say early. It probably wasn't as much early, but definitely the mid. He never fell past the mid-third round early in the offseason. I was concerned about that, right? I made a lot of videos talking about it. I was like, listen, guys, he had 13 touchdowns. He spiked for touchdowns, even great touchdown scores. Like, he's going to have fewer. The value is going to go down. Like, we can't be drafting him in the mid-third round. And people kind of recognize that. Then he starts holding out. And now his ADP is cratering. He's consistently available in the mid to late fourth round at this point. And I'd assume now that there's the trade rumors, now that he keeps holding out, he'll be available in round 5 soon. Well, I think that is absolutely worth taking for Terry McLaurin, because again, I think the most likely outcome here is that they do get a deal done. He's on the Commanders, and that he has a really strong season. He's probably not going to be as good as last year, but in the 5th round, who cares? That's still great value. So I'm still going to draft him because I think that occurs. And also, any team that trades for him wants to also sign him to a contract and would have a role for him on offense. So it'd still be a fine thing to happen. But again, I'm very confident they're going to get a deal done, but who knows? Maybe it'll look really stupid because something happened on Friday, and I'll pin a comment if that's the case. Last thing we need to go over is Jacory Krosky-Merritt. Again, I talked about him last week as someone to like keep an eye on because he's had a ton of buzz in OTAs and training camp. I'm excited for his production in the preseason. We will see. I think if you like Brian Robinson Jr., you like Eckler, you got to be paying attention to this because it seems like he's doing pretty good. Again, he's like a 7th round rookie, so who knows? But sometimes with this season, it was such a good class for rookie running backs that we can be like, oh, it's just a 7th round rookie. But in a lot of years, maybe he would have been a 5th rounder, right? So don't completely write him off because of that. Late round rookies, undrafted rookies do break out from time to time. There is a chance, given that Brian Robinson Jr. is a mediocre running back, given that Eckler is good, but like aged and is more of just kind of a change of pace 3rd down back, that Jacory Krosky-Merritt actually has a role this season, actually has a long-term value on this team. So keep an eye on this situation. He's definitely an interesting flyer late in drafts as a sleeper, and it could absolutely tank the value of Brian Robinson Jr. So right now, if you see him falling, I think it's okay to draft him, but I would be very hesitant in doing that. He's never been someone who's historically drafted besides like that first season, so I wouldn't go after him. So it was a long one, but please, if you're still here, leave a like. And while you're down there, please hit subscribe. As well, we're going to do this video every single Saturday, so make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss it. We'll have a mock draft Monday on Monday, and then we'll be live Tuesday night to do 2 drafts, 6 p.m. Eastern. Come to with any question. If you have any sort of question, I know a ton of you put questions in the comment section. I try to answer every single comment in the Tuesday live stream. So come to that, ask your questions. I'll answer those, and we'll do 2 drafts live. So that'll do it for this one. Thank you all for watching. Again, please leave a like if you're still here. Please subscribe to the channel if you are new, but I'll catch you all on the next one.